Hello everyone, I Radhika Khurana welcome you to yet another episode of Lawyer Speaks presented to you by Law Community, wherein we invite brilliant minds of legal fraternity so that we get to peek into their lives and get to know their stories. And today we have with us Mitakshara Goyal, former associate at PMA Law Offices and LLM holder from University of Cambridge. My first question to you is when did you decided you want to pursue your career in law?
Okay, so I actually did not decide to pursue a career in law. I joined law as a matter of chance when I switched my fields. I was pretty much clueless till 12th grade what I wanted to do, but as all Indian parents make you do, I joined science. And after that, by virtue of me being opinionated and my grandfather being in the profession, I just somehow landed up in law school. But what kept me in this field in long enough to even pursue masters is the fact that how dynamic law is and how impactful it can be to the society, to us in every aspect. And I just believe that, as Roscoe Pound says, that law is an experience developed by reason, and we just keep applying it and continuing it through our experiences. I've just been driven towards it, be it in the human rights sector or commercial sector. I feel it just has a lot of intersection with politics, with religion, with gender studies, and yeah, I just can explore a lot of fields through this legal profession.
You're right. Law is that one field that is connected to all the other fields that are available, which
Yeah.
we can explore. Yeah. So, who has been your role model? Who inspires you?
Actually, I've always found it very difficult to idolize anybody. Whilst I do appreciate the professional skills and the expertise of several lawyers that I've worked with, or the matters I've been a part of, where several lawyers have been our sort of role model per se, but I have personally not been able to idolize somebody. I do idolize and get inspiration from possibly every female litigator or a solicitor or any lawyer struggling to make their voice heard in such a male-dominated field and just getting their arguments appreciated. I mean, in a male-dominated courtroom, it is highly likely for you to encounter a opposing counsel and a judge who would be male, and it is undeniably difficult to sort of prove yourself and get the court to silence and get your point heard. And I do believe that that itself inspires me, be it Malvika Rajkotia in the family courts, or be it Pinky Anand in the Supreme Court, or Menika Guru Swami, so, or Samantha Power in the international courts. So yeah, I think I derive inspiration from every such female lawyer at this point.
So you just talked about the gender discrimination that is there in Indian courts. So do you feel that there is, because earlier there were not used to be so many female lawyers arguing in court, but now there are. If you even see the strength of the law school, there are more of female students than to male students.
Yeah.
If we compare the statistics before and
Yeah.
after, right now. So what
Yeah.
do you feel has changed over this course of period of time, or still if there is any changes that needs to be introduced?
So I do feel that there is a change in terms of a lot of women now actually choosing law as a career and seeing themselves, sort of positioning themselves somewhere in this field, for sure. But the problem is that I still see sort of a scarcity in terms of like women being litigators coming to the field in the courts, as in judiciary. I mean, we have about 140 plus law schools in Delhi itself, but the representation of women, if you go to the Delhi High Court or the Supreme Court or the trial court, actually trial courts are worse. They're abysmally low in terms of the representation that we have in as litigators, as counsels, as senior counsels. If you see every year the number of senior counsels that are, or counsels that are actually promoted to senior counsels, there is a lot of gender politics that does take part in a lot of appointments. I don't want to take name of appointments that have sort of faced this sort of bias, but there has been this sort of inherent discrimination that is entrenched in our legal system, be it in the judiciary, be it high court judges being promoted to Supreme Court, or be it trial court judges. being ever appointed to the High Court. And actually that does sort of make the entire legal environment very hostile for women. So I see a lot of female lawyers like us wanting to go to a firm and work, because it's they sort of consider it as a slightly better environment than going to the court and not being heard or being discriminated against, and yeah, just not being heard for what they worked upon. So, and I'm not saying that there isn't any discrimination in the firm. Having worked and being a part of a lot of organizations as an intern or as an associate, there has been mansplaining. There is a lot of culture of being shushed constantly by male lawyers, and especially when it comes to financial sectors and commercial sectors. And they have this sort of there's this stereotype with respect to women that they do not understand finance and commerce as well as men do. And I don't know why this is, but there is this entrenched sort of bias for many clients preferring men over women for such matters, even in the firm. So yeah, I think such things need to be changed. And I think gradually change is coming, but it has to come at a very initial stage, that is in law school, encouraging women to take up more roles in possibly moot courts, in opening more avenues for litigation, and in law schools which are just sort of obsessed over having children to be placed in firms. I think they should encourage placements with chambers, with litigation lawyers and senior counsels, and focus more on their placements as well. And I think a lot of female lawyers would want to go and get a stage to speak.
Many female lawyers just want one opportunity, but they're denied that opportunity because of this gender discrimination that is prevalent in our society.
Yeah.
And it all comes to thinking at the end. Okay, so my next question to you is, you've also worked as an associate at PMA Law Offices while pursuing your law. So how did you manage to do both, like your education as well as your work?
I mean, I got placed in my third year after my first internship at PNA. I was not expecting that, but it came to me as a surprise, a pleasant surprise. And after that, I just withdrew myself from the campus placements because that was the agreement. And ever since then, I was supposed to join PNA immediately because I was working on some matters which were pretty much urgent. So I used to sort of shuttle between law school and firm, and I would sort of give a lot of credit to PNA per se, because they were flexible with my timings. They sort of accommodated my commutation and minimized my traveling and stuff. So yeah, obviously that sort of supplemented the entire journey. But I did sort of struggle with law school and the grading system, and you know how it is. Also knowing that I have to do LLM, and my grades would sort of impact my admission into a law school for LLM. But I do feel that this entire burden that I did take upon myself was pretty much worth it, because the experience that PNA gave to me, being a mid-sized firm, is I don't think it could have been more remarkable, because I got to go to briefings with senior counsels. I explored a lot of arbitration work. I attended a lot of arbitrations, and I think for every fourth year or a third year law school student, it cannot get better. And it did sort of help me clear up my mind as to which courses I want to specialize in my LLM. So yeah, I think if the firm sort of and the partners sort of work with you, I think it makes it more sort of realistic and it can work out well. So I just got lucky, to be honest.
Talking about the present year, you're also a victim of this pandemic because you also graduated this year. So what do you feel, according to you, are the opportunities and challenges faced by the students this year?
I mean, well, that also hit a nerve. I do empathize with everybody graduating this year, or in fact with every student whose 1 year of uni has or school has messed up. But talking about the challenges specific to the legal field, I do see a hiring freeze, obviously, internationally, because as master students, you do sort of tend to apply for vacation schemes, or training contracts, but those were put on hold considering the situation and people going back to their countries. So I think that was a big setback. honestly. However, there are options in terms of like you applying for and sitting for the bar abroad, and then later naturalizing yeah, as a lawyer, as a solicitor, or a barrister as per what you want to do abroad. So yeah, so that is a challenge internationally. Coming to domestic challenges, again there is a hiring freeze, and that is undeniable. Very large firms are actually laying off people, doing cost cutting and all sorts of things, and does talk a lot about the organizations per se and how they treat their employees. But that matter aside, I see a lot of opportunity at hand for people, especially graduate, just who have just graduated, because it gives them a patient wait to sort of reflect on the areas they sort of are interested in and want to specialize, be it in as an in higher studies or in practice. And I think they can work upon it, look at research work, look at a lot of articles, write a lot of articles, and make their presence on LinkedIn. And if they don't have a strong CV as yet, they can do this in this time that they have, where there is a hiring freeze. In terms of higher education, again, I do think that this is a great time to reflect and also prepare for all your applications, which do take this long. And this lockdown can actually really be productive in terms of applications. um, with respect to, Justice Chandrachud actually said that this whole virtual courtroom can be really helpful for young lawyers to establish themselves in courtrooms right now, because of the whole online system. And I do agree with that. So in that sense, again, this is an opportunity. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, so coming back to our previous topic of discussion, like in past 6 years during your LLB and LLM, have you faced any kind of bullying at workplace? If so, if yes, then what was it, and how did you manage to, cope up with that?
So when I actually see bullying, I possibly would have, I did face bullying in two respects. In terms of gender bias or gender discrimination, I would say that just in every organization where I've interned or worked, there is this inherent sort of tendency in uh, male associates or male seniors to sort of mansplain and consider you less in when it comes to financial matters, banking matters. It's probably a personal experience. It might not be the case in other firms, but this is what I have sort of faced. Uh, and there is after 2 3 internships, I did sort of understand when to call out such behavior and put an end to it before it happens to other interns or other associates. I do consider this as bullying for sure, and it is a very subtle bullying which makes the environment so hostile that it is just remarkably upsetting. And the second type of bullying I think I felt when I was an intern at so many organizations where I was unpaid and I was made to work relentlessly, like a lot more than, um, I mean, where associates go for long smoke breaks and pile you up with all the work that they have, and you're an unpaid person who has not eaten food, and yet you have to give the deliverables so you can go home by 6 because it's just unsafe to go after that. And despite and just not being paid. And I feel like Indian internship culture needs to change, because this is really bullying. If somebody is interested in a job, you just cannot say no to work at this point, and it puts the intern in a very helpless situation. And I do feel that firstly they need to be paid for the work that they do and cannot be considered as cheap labor. And secondly, there needs to be some guidelines as to how associates should treat interns, because it can put immense pressure on them, and I do see that as bullying as well.
I completely agree with you on that. So, coming to your higher education, you've done your LLM from University of Cambridge. So, do you feel there is any difference between the education being imparted in India and the education being imparted in? Is there any difference in the way they impart the education, or any practical knowledge that is being taught there and not in India?
I've actually been asked this by a lot of students who are applying this year, and I do tell them that firstly, Indian education system is resonates with UK education system a lot. They are pretty much similar in terms of examinations. I mean, in Cambridge, we had the same exact type of examinations. Actually, the entire Oxford system works on the same system as what we have in India. With respect to the type of classes we hold, it's a lecture kind of classes, or it can be a discussion-based class where there are lawyers from the practical field, or there are pure academicians who are teaching you. And there's always a difference between how a practicing lawyer teaches versus how an academician would teach you, which would be a lot more theoretical as compared to what a practicing lawyer would teach. However, so in that respect, I would say that my LLM was a lot more practical, as I was exposed to a lot many practicing lawyers as I was in my undergrad. So when I was doing my international investment law course or IPR course, I was taught by people who were practicing in international courts and doing arbitration. So definitely that gives you an edge and a perspective to how things function. However, I would say that it is not about what is really taught. And I know this may just sound absurd, but that is true. I think what any LLM, not just limited to Cambridge or Oxford or any IVs, it is just the experience of you going abroad and sort of understanding the culture and embracing the culture and the diversity and having a voice in that culture and in a white space for me when I went to UK. And that actually frames you as a better lawyer. You know how to communicate better and express better, and it opens up a lot of opportunities. And I think that is something which is different from of when you study domestically versus when you go abroad and do a course. So yeah, it's just a personality development and a self exploration for me, but it can be different experience for different people.
So, has there been any particular, milestone in your life that stands out and comes to your mind when you come to think about it?
Um, I actually do not see any of my professional achievements, be it getting into Cambridge or getting an offer from a law firm, as a milestone per se. It just doesn't strike me as one. But for me, my milestone was a rather phased one, I would say. The law school did subject me to a lot of mental distress, academically, emotionally, personally. There was a phase in my law school in my second and third year where I was just completely mentally distressed and emotionally broken. And it was a lot to do with academics and other personal stuff. And I feel my milestone was the fact that I sort of acknowledged it. And I think the idea of just acknowledging that you need help at that point is a milestone. And I do tell it to a lot of people who are a lot of juniors who are facing this in different law schools. And it is this it's a very Asian thing to have this entire academic pressure built in with respect to how we are brought up. And I just feel like we need, if you can acknowledge that you need help, that is a milestone, because then you just have to seek help and you will cope with it eventually, as I did, as everybody would do. So I think I would take this as this moment just to normalize this fact that there will be a point in your life, and definitely in law school, where you will be clueless about what you want to do and possibly you won't have an offer. But it's just there will be a point when you would want help, and so just please seek help, and it's completely normal. So yeah, I think that was a milestone for me.
Changing the topic of our discussion a little bit, you just mentioned that, during law school, you face a lot of academic pressure, peer pressure, practical pressure, and personal pressure, and whatever the person is facing. So, what do you do when you take time out from all these things, from your studies and academically?
Well, actually, Jindal has, because I'm from Jindal Global Law School, and I'm limiting my answer to law school. I would say that we just were exposed to a lot of things, be it dance, be it yoga, and I'm actually a very social person, and living in a campus style environment is just a lot easier to go and just meet people whenever you want. And I think for me, just meeting and talking everything out was a great break. And it also depends on what you're taking time off from. So if it is examinations, it was rather just going and chilling and talking to people, or watching, or um, going for a, I don't know, a PUBG game or something. But otherwise, in my routine life, I've recently started playing ukulele. So that's been something I've been doing new. And yeah, it can be anything. It's just, I just do a lot of things, but I'm mostly just social. So I just like meeting people and eating a lot of food. So I think I would say that's my time off.
And lastly, what keeps you motivated?
I think professionally, it's literally, firstly, obviously, the idea of justice when it comes to arguing any court, in any court, but also just personally, when why I work is just to be financially independent, because I've just seen a lot of women stuck in their lives because they cannot finance themselves alone, and I am just motivated to keep myself engaged and also financially independent, so that I'm not tied down to somebody because I cannot sustain myself. And yeah, that keeps me motivated for everything.
So, what advice would you like to give to students,
Hmm.
your juniors?
Oh my god. So I just feel like don't take law school too seriously. It will sort of force you to take law school very seriously. And I know every grade matters, and I know every grade will impact your admission in a law school for LLM, or your ranking for your placement. But to be honest, everything does get figured out. And stop idealizing Ivy Leagues or Oxbridge, because I feel like any university, you can take as much as you want from any university, and no university is less, or no placement is less than the other. And law school is a journey, and legal profession itself is a journey. So if you've not figured out what you want, stop being so hassled, because you will eventually figure out what field you like, or what is your passion. It might take longer than others do, but it's going to happen. It happened for me also a lot later, uh, and it's just going to be all right. So I've gone through a lot of mental distress, but I can just hope that you don't go through that, and it will all be okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today and
Thank
sharing
you
your
so much,
experiences.
Amita. It
I
was
hope many students will learn from your experience and try to implement